Okay, so yesterday we were factoring a quadratic expression when a, or the leading coefficient, was 1. Sorry about that. So let's take the example, if we've got 4p squared minus 24p plus 20. All right, and we talked about whenever we're factoring anything to always first look to see if it has a greatest common factor. So a number that's common, that'll go into all three of the numbers. So if always look at your smallest one first. I got 4. Will 4 go into 24? Yes. Will it go into 20? Yes. So we know that 4 is common. We have the variable p, however, my last term does not have a variable. So 4 is going to be our greatest common factor. So we're going to divide each term by 4. So 4p squared divided by 4 is 1p squared. And then 24p divided by 4 is, bring down your sign, minus 6p. And then positive 20 divided by 4 is positive 5. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to look at this inside, and it's a quadratic because it's got a square, a variable square. And I've got the standard form of a quadratic, a variable squared, then a variable to the first power, and then a constant. So I'm going to see if I can factor that. All right, so I'm going to bring my x. I know that a is 1, b, which is the middle coefficient, is negative 6, and c is my constant, which is positive 5. All right, so if you remember in the x, we put a times c. So 1 times 5 is 5. And then down in the bottom part of the x, we put the b, the coefficient of the center term. It's negative 6. And then we put our fraction bars and we divide by a, which is 1. All right, so the factors of 5 that add up to negative 6. So this is positive 5. So I'm going to say negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. And negative 1 plus negative 5 is negative 6. So that's going to be our numbers. All right, so this is, when you divide by 1, they come out to negative 1 and 5. So we're going to have x, well, my variable was p. So p minus 1 and p minus 5. Okay. And of course, you could always check it. P squared minus 5p minus 1p plus 5. And that comes up to our original problem. All right. Okay, well, what we're going to be doing today is what happens whenever we have a is greater than 1. Okay, a is greater than 1, and we know that we're always dividing by a, so that's going to mean that we're going to have a denominator greater than 1 there. So we got to see what we do with that. All right, that's the only thing that's really different about it, and the reason I always had you put that a here so you'll be in the habit of it. Okay. All right, so let's look at your notes page, and if you notice, I'm really not paying attention to this because I found that doing the x, this is basically the same thing. However, doing the x seems to help everybody keep it a little organized. All right, so if we look at this, first off, we're going to see, do we have a common factor? 2, 5, and 3. Well, no, there's nothing that 2, it can't go into 3. 2 can't go into 5 evenly. So we don't have a greatest common factor. But we know that A is 2, B is 5, and C is 3. Okay? So it's a little bit different. A's bigger than 1. But we're still going to do the same thing with our x. We've got A times C and B, and we're dividing by A. So in this case, A is 2. And then A times C would be 2 times 3 is 6, and then B was 5. All right, so we're still going to look at the factors of 6, 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. The factors of 6 that add up to 5, so that's going to be 2 and 3, right? All right, so we're doing the same thing we've been doing. But usually this was 1, so when we divided by 1, it was our numerator. Well, in this case, when we divide, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. All right, so we're going to leave this the way it is. All right, so in our first, we're going to have 2 binomials. Our first one, we've got 1, right? So we can say x plus 1. Now this one's going to be a little bit different. You're going to take the denominator 2 and put it in front of your x. And then you're going to take the numerator, which is positive 3, and put it behind. All right? So your denominator goes here, and your numerator goes here. All right, so now this would be your answer. And you can check it. That'd be 2x squared. And then that would be 3x. This would be 2x. And this would be 3. So it's 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. And that was our problem. Okay? All right, so we do everything the same as we did the day before. The only difference is when you cannot divide evenly. Like here I could. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And we just put that number like we did the day before. However, when you cannot divide evenly, you put the denominator in front of the variable and the numerator after the variable. Okay? All right, so let's look at the next one here. So this is A, B, and C. So we have our x. A times C is negative 24. B is negative 5. And we're going to divide by A, which is 6. So the factors of negative 24 that add up to negative 5. Well, we know it's not negative 124. Let's see, 2 times 12. So negative 2 times 12 is 10. So we're not looking at that. Negative 3 times 8. That would be positive 5 if I added them together. So let's add together 3 plus negative 8. So that's negative 5, right? So let's put down 3 and negative 8. All right, so 3/6, that reduces to 1/2. And then 8/6, and always reduce your fractions. 8/6, it won't divide evenly, but I can reduce it to negative 4/3. Okay, so here's our fractions. So we put the denominator in front and the number after. Denominator in front and the number after. Now this negative, you could have put it with the 4 or the 3. I just like keeping it with the numerator. Okay. All right, turn your... Okay, let's try this one. So this is A, B, C. Remember that's negative 11. So do our x. 3 times 10 is 30. and then negative 11 at the bottom. And we're dividing, in this case, by a is 3. So the factors of 30 that add up to negative 11. So 30 was 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10. It's not going to work. 4 doesn't do, 5 and 6. All right, 5 and 6. So it's negative, so it's going to have to be negative 5 plus negative 6 is negative 11. And if I multiply, negative times negative will give me positive 30. All right, so now we're going to divide. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. And then over here, we can't divide that. We can't simplify our fraction, so we have a fraction. All right, our variable's x. So we're going to do the x minus 2. And then denominator in front of the x, numerator after. So that would be our answer. Okay, let's skip down to number 5. All right, A, B, C. So A times C is 4, B is negative 4, and we're dividing by A, which is 4. A lot of 4s there. All right, so factors of 4. 1 times 4, well, that doesn't add up to negative 4. How about negative 2, negative 2? If we add them together, we get negative 4. If we multiply them, we get positive 4. So it's going to be negative 2, negative 2, which reduces to negative 1/2. Negative 1/2. All right, so these are the same binomial. So denominator in front, oops, A, variable behind. Denominator in front, numerator behind. Okay, these are the exact same binomials, right? Well, we can even simplify that more by doing that. Okay. All right, let's look at number 7. Look for a GCF first. You should do that all along. All right, you shouldn't have to have directions tell you that. You always look first. All right, 10, 75, and 35. Well, I know 35, that's my smallest number, but it won't go into 10. So how about 5? Okay, sorry about that. All right, so let's try 5. Okay. 5 will go into 10k squared, 2k squared. 5 will go into 75 15 times, and 5 will go into 35 7 times. So I always look to make sure again that that was my greatest by just seeing if I can get a common factor out of what my new numbers, and I can't, so that 5 works. All right, but I can now try to factor this inside. So we've got A is 2, B is 15, and C is 7. So we're going to put A times C, so that's 14, and then B is 15, and we're dividing by A, which is 2. So factors of 14, so 1 times 14 is 14, 1 plus 14 is 15. So that works. 14 divided by 2 is 7, so that works. And 1/2, can't reduce that, so that's going to be our fraction. All right, so now for my answer. This 5, we factored it out, so it was a part of the original problem, right? So it's going to go in our answer. So I'm going to bring it down, and then I'm going to write my 2 binomials. So denominator in front of the k, numerator positive 1 after. numerator k, and I have a whole number, so it'll just be k positive 7. So now this whole thing is my answer. Okay. Let's do one more. All right. First off, do I have a greatest common factor? Is there a number that will go into all of those? All right. Of course, my smallest number is not working here. Let's see. 3 will go into 15. 3 will go into 18. 3 will go into 24. I believe that's going to be my common factor. We'll check in a minute to make sure it makes sense. So this will be... Okay, so inside I've got my new problems, 5, -6, and -8. So yeah, that I don't have a common factor in those, so 3 was good, that worked. So now I'm gonna do factor the middle here. So a times c, 5 times -8 is -40. And then my b was -6, and we're dividing by a. All right, so factors of -40. So I could say -2 times 20. I could say -4 times 10. All right, I think that those numbers are going to work. However, this would, if I added those together, I get +6. So let's try it 4 and -10. 4 plus -10 is -6. But always it has to multiply to equal the top one. So 4 times -10, when you multiply them, you get -40. When you add them, you get -6. So that's going to work, 4 and -10. All right, so 4/5 is a simplified fraction, so we're going to use that. -10 divided by 5 is -2, so we're going to use that. All right, so my GCF, I'm going to bring it down. It's going to be part of my answer. And then for my fraction, denominator in front of the y, and the numerator, which is +4 after. And then for my whole number, my whole integer here, we're just going to do a variable, and then my integer was -2. All right. So that's going to be your problem. All right. Remember, do the problems on your study guide, the ones we didn't do. Do those as practice and check your answer. All right. When you're doing this, you can distribute. That'd be 5y squared. And that would be -10y plus 4y minus 8. So that would be 5y squared minus 6y minus 8, and then times 3. So then you'd multiply all terms by 3. So 15y squared minus 18y minus 24. All right, so we got the same thing as the problem was, so that meant that this answer here was correct. All right, so practice some of those problems, check your answer. Keep trying until you feel comfortable with it, and then do your independent practice for your grade. Okay? All right, have a good evening.